All right, so let's talk about contrarian investing. What does it mean to be a contrarian? Well, it means if everybody is going this direction, it means that you are going in the opposite direction.
We should probably run in the opposite direction.
And this is how great investors really make a lot of money, is they find undervalued or out of favor assets and they get in at a time where everyone is not interested in them. And I can share example after example, and I'll share some here of how that is available, and then share some of the opportunities that I'm seeing right now that are contrarian things you can get into or can consider. But let's talk about your contrarian mindset. I've got a great video for you and one great quote at the end. So let's jump in. All right, so my name is Bronson Hill. I'm the CEO of Bronson Equity. We do deals like this. Behind me here, multifamily. We do oil and gas. We do businesses. We buy different things. We provide cash flow, appreciation, or tax benefits for passive investors just like you. So consider joining our investment club. These are just my opinions. This is educational. This is not any specific investing advice to you. Okay, so let's jump in here. So what is happening right now? The current landscape, we're seeing, inflation has been raging. We're seeing the stock market has come up, it's come down, crypto. We've seen just lots of volatility in different places, which is not uncommon, right? This happens repeatedly again and again.
You mean this has happened before?
There's a lot of people that are afraid of a market downturn. People are afraid of volatility, and the time, honestly, is really never right, to be an investor. But it's important to kind of pay attention to what's happening, that these things are going. Now, the conventional wisdom will tell you, well, listen to what advisors, your financial advisor says, or listen to what talking heads on TV say, or listen to what articles come out and what's really hot right now. But if you do any or all of those things, you will not do well. I can almost guarantee you would not do well, because if you see your investment, your company, your asset class be at the top on the front page of Forbes magazine, it's time to consider selling. Now, I have a good friend, and she bought NVIDIA 10 years ago, and it recently became, I don't know if it still is, but it recently became the largest company in the world as far as capitalization. Now, when that happens, again, she's had this for 10 years. It's been something like a 10,000% increase. I mean, just phenomenal growth, done very, very well with it, held it. And then I said, well, are you really looking for much more upside? Because for that stock to go higher, it might be like another 10, 20, 30, maybe 50%, but there's not a lot much more room for that stock to be able to go, right? But when you're the largest, it will always at some point come back down lower. So at the time when the stock has become the biggest, the largest, is being talked about everywhere, it's important to kind of say, well, maybe I should try to find somewhere else to put this, right? So again, these are principles. It's not a specific recommendation to sell NVIDIA or buy NVIDIA or any of these kind of things. Just saying, when it's come up so far, maybe it's time to consider, the stock has become very popular, and maybe it's time to kind of start putting something somewhere else. So to be a contrarian, it involves a lot of temperament. Warren Buffett says the best investing trait is temperament. It's not panicking when things are going bad. And we saw this in 2008. We saw it, and maybe you experienced it. We all went through it, right? So did you sell? What did you do in those moments? But again, at the time when things are crashing, it's the time to say, well, maybe it's time to back the truck up and go load up more stuff rather than sell. Because if you love the company, it could be really great. And Buffett talks about this. He says that basically short-term uncertainty is the friend of the investor with long-term values, right? And I'm paraphrasing, but he basically is saying, like, when you have uncertainty, I've talked to so many investors, 2,500 investors the last few years, and so many of them will say, well, I'm just kind of waiting. I'm waiting for this. Well, I'm waiting for things to kind of settle. Well, if you wait for things to settle and things become super clear, you're going to be too late. And that's why it's important when things are unclear to be able to get in. Now, I'm going to talk for a minute about how you find undervalued assets. I talk about this in my book, Fire Yourself. I talk about different ways to be able to do this and how you value any asset class. If you haven't picked up the book, I encourage you to do it. But let's share a few examples of this. These are success stories, right? 2008, 2009, Michael Burry from The Big Short. You may have seen the movie The Big Short. This guy, just really smart dude. He actually has come out to be autistic or has Asperger's, and he was a medical fellow, so he was working, or a resident. He was kind of working while he was doing this. He was able to turn $100 million of investor money into about $1 billion over just a short period, 5 or 10 years. And how did he do it? Is he identified an area where in the housing, there was this, there were these subprime mortgages, and he just saw this whole thing was a house of cards and it was going to fall apart. Now, it was not without challenge. Investors actually tried to sue him to get the money back before, he actually was able to get all the money out and be able to make a ton of money, which is interesting. Even a lot of the investors then were having trouble being contrarian as well. So amazing story about it, 10x return-ish on that for a short period of time. Amazon during the dot-com bubble. During the dot-com bubble, like a lot of tech stocks many tech stocks went to zero. This is 2001, 2002, went to zero. And Amazon was still a great opportunity. And so people that were paying attention could have found a sector, which was the tech and the internet sector, e-commerce, and they were able to go buy Amazon at a super cheap rate when everyone else was selling. Another one that did is buying gold back in the early 2000s. Gold was around $200 or $250 an ounce. Now it's $2,500, right? So if you bought 20 years ago, you would have made a 10x on your money over the last 20 years. So Contrarian now, what are the things that I like right now? Again, these are just my own opinions, my own ideas, things to consider. I love multifamily investing. I just did a video about this. I'm a multifamily guy. We've taken about a 2-year break of doing new multifamily deals because of the debt situation. We're seeing right now some opportunities that are discounted 20 to 30% in phenomenal markets of where they were 4 years ago, right? So we're seeing, all the prices for everything we're buying now, groceries are 50% higher than 4 years ago, gas is higher, all the costs are higher. Well, a multifamily apartment now is sometimes 20, 30, 40% less than it was a few years ago. I mean, there's something a little bit out of whack there, right? And we have this asset, we know there's incredible demand. Second one is precious metals. We talked about that. I love precious metals because they're a store of value. I've done other videos on this. Encourage you to check it out. I didn't really get this for a while, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think that it's a great way to store value instead of holding cash. And then the third thing really is cash flowing businesses. We live, these days it's hard to find anything that's providing cash flow. Real estate is not. Most real estate deals, almost all real estate deals, are providing very little cash flow, if any cash flow. And so, finding deals that provide cash flow, we love. So businesses, all these businesses are selling sometimes for 2, 3, 4, 5 times earnings. And there's just a lot of cash that's available. This can be financed, so we're looking into that. And you can operate one yourself. You can also be a passive investor with groups like ours that actually buy businesses, and we're able to operate them and offer cash flow to investors, which is great. So encouragement is really, find your own investment strategy. But again, when you look at your investments, your portfolio, ask yourself the question, is this an in-favor asset? Is this, just being presented to being super hot? And if you've invested for a while especially, it might be time just to say, you know what, let's take some chips off the table. Let's find some other things that are out of favor, because things go in favor, they go out of favor. And what's in favor now? Obviously chip makers, as I mentioned, we're seeing right now the stock market looks pretty hot. There's a lot of things, a lot of tech companies that look pretty great as far as valuations, but there are things, like multifamily, there are other assets, there are things out there that are not as sexy or as exciting for a lot of people, but those are things to consider if we want to be great investors. So Warren Buffett says it great. He says it this way. He says, be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. It's just a classic quote. Love quoting Warren Buffett anytime I can. And then, what are my favorite investments in 2024? Earlier this year, I mentioned a few in this video, but I have some other ones in this video. If you can check it out here, you'll find some other things that I'm doing that I found to be really exciting for this year. So you can check that out. And then, if you haven't joined our investment club, you're not hearing about the multifamily, oil and gas, the businesses that we're buying, the opportunities we're giving for investors to provide cash flow appreciation or tax benefits. Check that out on the link below, our website, bronsonequity.com. We'll set up a call with you, start a relationship, and we can actually start sharing some of these deals that are private deals. We don't share them publicly. We don't share them widely. There's a reason for that. There's some legality around that. But we've just found there's some incredible opportunities that we're seeing now. So if you haven't joined, we'd love for you to join. But thanks for taking the time to educate yourself. Look forward to seeing you on the next video.